I don't think I'm gonna do G League because I don't know enough about the people in G League, and like so a couple of the G League draft slots were just like really hard to interpret. So like Pebble was taken really early in G League because uh what do you call him? KOS did not have like a flail at the time that could run relentless, so it was like some drama with that. I didn't get picked Sag. There's no way you signed up. You just did not sign up. I also wish I had something better than a screenshot, but this is what I was given. So, but I could draw on this and we could talk about some of the picks. Like the obvious like first thing to point out is if you look at like these first, I'd say 3 rounds, every single player here is playing in Kill Squad, and for the most part, they're in Group 9 or Group 10. Group 9 and Group 10 are considered to be the hardest like Kill Squad spots to play because if like this is the point, like you have like what 7 and then 8 and then 9 and then 10's like somewhere like way out here. So like 9 and 10, if those lose, then the other team can just like wrap inward on the other kill squad. So it's like really important for them to live. And depending on what each team valued, they drafted people higher to support those. So like Brick, for example, he's honestly like a very obvious number one overall. Like it's not debatable between him and Curio at the moment. And that's just because I say this because Curio was drafted like number one overall before. But like Brick plays Group 9, which is the hardest one to heal in NA, and he plays Group 10 in EU, and he plays those for the best companies on both servers, and he plays the hardest role. So it's like, yeah, he should be consensus number one overall. He's playing the healer, which is the spot where if it dies, everyone else dies, and he's playing it for the hardest company. So I'm like not surprised he went number one overall. The main thing that surprised me with healers in this, I'll get into this later. Chewy's like similar spot where he'll be playing one of those kill squad ones. Same with Viblo, I imagine. Curio being drafted early is like I mean early but not really early. Curio's fourth overall now, was previously number one healer and like number one overall. So I think that like it still like is very valuable though to draft like Curio that early. Like getting Curio like 19 is like a steal from a healer perspective. Uh, in terms of the other stuff that was taken early, like we see Cyblo, they basically are just like, hey, we're taking all of our kill squad players like very early on. Like Coca, a very good IGVG for that like kind of 8-9 fight. They also keep in mind they have Stern, so Stern's also a good IGVG, so they basically end up with two IGVGs that are very good, like very, very early. And I'd say right now there's a pretty big skill gap between the so IGVGs and a very, very good IGVG. So that was not super surprised to see that. Then from like a general theme from like these first like I'd say 5 rounds, if you look at this, like KOS, these guys are basically prioing boomers. Anyone that is over the age of I'd say 25 was drafted by them with a high prio. No, they picked people that were like T1 like a year and a half to 2 years ago, but aren't necessarily proven in the current day and age. So that's like the big thing with them. Like Brick, he plays right now, so like there's no question with that. Bert, from my understanding, had not played in a long time. He's done like 1 or 2 wars since he signed up for New World League. When Bert played, he was consensus for the best fire staff in AEU and NA, but like the skill discrepancy between like Berg and like the next fire staff, which is Aang going at 29, in my opinion, is not that big in hindsight to like warrant selecting Bert like what, fourth overall? Yeah, player 1, 2, 3, no, 6 overall. So like I don't think like it like the discrepancy there doesn't really justify this in my opinion. But like from a general standpoint, that's what Beast is doing, is they're prowling these old players that were considered to be like the best in the game. Viblo is newer, so he breaks that trend. Gurge is older. Impunity is older. Impunity's had like a really good showing with like Marvel Rivals recently. And I'm a little surprised he went this late, to be honest, because of that. It's like he hasn't played the game, but he's played other games at a very high level. And these other bruisers like Beefy, C-West, Coop. Did Brucey go before him? No, Brucey went after. So it just went this other way. So it's just like Beefy and C-West went before him. So it's like I'm a little surprised he didn't go earlier than that, even, to be honest, even as number 4. But like you do see the trend there, like Dex Demon, old player, Flond, old player, Kier, Vu, like Annie, like it's just like a constant trend throughout their draft where they're drafting players that were really good back in the day but aren't necessarily proven to be great now. Like Clay, but Clay has proved, like he's been in some wars now that are pretty good as well. Custom, NATO, like Custom, for example, has had like really, really bad showings as of recent, which is probably why he got traded from Team Beast to Cyblau. But when he played, he was considered to be one of the best bruisers in the game. So it's like one of those where you're banking on people that I would say probably have like somewhere between a 65 to 75% hit rate, and you're taking them like very early on. So it's like a very like hit or miss kind of thing, all wash list. I mean, that's kind of what it is. I mean, like anytime people come back to a game and they were very good when they played, they typically either will still be as good as they were, like they'll be as good and will be insane, or they will just be irrelevant. And there's usually not a ton of between. Like you don't see people from like sports like retire and come back like very often. Like you wouldn't see like Kirk Cousins like get signed to another team for as much of the contract that he just got when he got benched off the Falcons. Like you don't see that again. And like Beast was heavily prioling those people, which I would argue that they should be probably prioling the people that have been playing recently and are proven to be good recently early on. And then like maybe when we start getting down to this like picks 20 through like 40 range is like where you start taking some risks. But they were prioling like risky players as soon as they're like their second pick. So that's like the interesting thing with Team Beast. That being said, like I think that team has the highest potential, but they also have the lowest floor just because of the variability of the people that they drafted and people coming back. And that will be the interesting thing to see with them. The best we could do is people that were good 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, and then like some of that too is just comes down to like on top of them like not playing for a long time. It's just the game has changed. I wouldn't say a lot, but it's changed like enough to where some roles are played pretty differently. So like Firestaff, when Bert used to play, like I'm using Bert as this example, but he'll probably be fine because he was like an insane player at the time. But like Firestaffs at the time when like Bert stopped playing, I think we're mostly playing like Firestaff Rapier, like very, very low con, and we're just nuking everybody. But now everybody's tankier. And Firestaffs are playing higher con and they're slotted with IG, which means like the individual impact from a Firestaff, I don't think like the magnitude of like having an insanely better Firestaff player is as there, but I'd like to be proven wrong on that. So that's something I thought was kind of interesting. And then also like from a healer standpoint, I thought it was kind of interesting that healers were drafted like so much by some teams early. I would say it's like it was less than in previous drafts, but like one of the reasons why you see this trend is healers just don't die as much now. Like from a healers' main problem historically is like living. It's people don't really care about heal timings as much, but I'd argue it's like where you really see the impact between like good healers and like so healers. But in terms of living, like you have grit pots now, which give you uninterruptible, which is the same effect that Stoneform gives. So it's like healers had this 5-second immunity button, and now they have like another 10-second immunity button. And this is like cooldowns like what, 20-25 seconds? Like depending if you run Refreshing Toast or not. So it's like healers should not really be dying unless they're like really, really caught out. And if they're really, really caught out, like you have a lot of questions about positioning at that point. And I think because of that, like the healer draft stunk like kind of sunk a lot. Like from a previous draft standpoint, like you'd probably see 10 healers picked in these first 10 rounds. Are healers actually running grit pots? It depends on the spot. For kill squad ones, yeah, they are. Because you could run grit pot and you could run mana pot, right? But the problem is you can't run grit pot and you can't run regen, and regen pots give you mana. You could also go for the stam pots on healer, but it's like 3 stam. Like I don't think it's super significant for healer to like run the stam pots over like regen at that point. Like regen would probably be better. So I thought that trend was kind of interesting. From KOS, this is the team I got traded to but wasn't drafted to originally. They very clearly, like if you just look at this from a high level, they took like a very bruiser-oriented core. So they're like bruiser. Like these first like, 6 picks, they take 4 bruisers. And they already have Whirl on their team. So, and they have Sweezy. So like they have 6 bruisers locked in by the time they're in round 6, which is just crazy. And so like from a KOS standpoint, like it's pretty obvious how KOS is pointing the win. They're pointing to win by main diffing with main ball. I think there's an argument that bruisers have more impact now because some bruisers that have come back to the game that were very good at the time are no longer as good. And I would think there's also an argument that bruisers are kind of just playing a rhythm game now where they're on Great Axe 90% of the time. They aren't on Warhammer anymore. They're on Great Axe to keep in power stacks up and to farm Deado. And then once they have Deado, they're detonating like every 25 to 30 seconds. So like the tempo has increased significantly, and by doing that, it gives bruisers like less time to get neutral kills. Like you saw that in the last war I did, where like we were getting a lot of neutral kills, but that's mostly just like a skill diff, like to be honest. So like I don't really know how to judge that. You see like KOS comes around eventually to drafting kill squad, but they're kind of late to the game at this point. Like you have all of these kill squad players go off the board. Well, I guess I got one. But they have like a lot of like really good kill squad players like come off the board and they kind of like sneak in to like towards the end. But if you look at like the comparison of like when these bruisers are drafted, like there's almost a bracket where you have like bruisers drafted here, and then like your next bruiser, like I guess there's on ice too, but like your next bracket of bruisers is like down here. Like there's like a solid like 5 picks where people are like, no, we're not picking bruisers here because we need to get other fundamental rules to be up and running, but bruisers are still valued highly. As a gamer using sports references, goddamn unicorn. I'm a Vikings fan. Kurt was my guy. Yeah. I mean, I think Kurt made more than Tom Brady did throughout his career, but I'm getting sidetracked. It's like kind of crazy if you think about it that way. Like in one way, he's more successful than the GOAT. Dex players were still drafted highly. This kind of surprised me because, to be honest, I don't think Bo is very good right now at all. Like I think if we did a class tier list today, Bo would be on the bottom 3. Like it would be like Bo, Greatsword, and Blunderbuss down there, and no one would really bat an eye towards that. But those players that play that role were still drafted very, very highly, so that was kind of interesting. Don't really know what to think about that. Some Firestaff players drafted highly, like Aang. And I think that's most of it for like the first, like I'd say 15 rounds. Is like general trend is get your bruisers, get your kill squad, start getting those healers where the dying matters a lot, and not as much focus towards other roles. Is this game worth coming back to? I mean, it depends what you want to do. If you like main a game and you want to play that game for 40 hours a week for some reason, I'd say no. But if you want to play New World for like 5 to 10 hours a week, I'd say yeah, it's great for that. It's a game where you can play it semi casually right now. And I think once season 10 drops in 3-ish months, it will be a game that you could probably main for at least a month or two, and then kind of have to wait and see to see how the season 10 stuff is. I've seen some of those top bruisers. They are really mid in EU. I mean, I'd argue the EU bruisers are generally better than the NA ones I faced. Like, there were some NA bruisers that were, like, really, really dominant in EU as well. Like, A's was really dominant in EU, and he was really good in NA. I think NATO's on here, right? Yeah, I think NATO did EU as well with A's in EU, and he was very good. But, yeah, most of these players did not do well in EU. Like when we went over to EU, I think Impunity was with us, and, like, Impunity, like, got clowned on with from a EU side, but he's like a really good bruiser in NA because Impunity's in the spot where he has the hardest job, where he's forcing space into 15 people that could just instantly look at him and blow him up anytime they want. So he like that's what happened on EU, but on NA that doesn't really happen as much. And it's just like each meta plays very differently, so it's like it's hard to compare the two. Like on EU, the fundamentals of how point tank is played is like completely different, and that's like why when Kenneth played like EU and a point on point tank as NA's #1 draft pick on tank in a war, a T1 war, he went like 0-7, and then like EU like Angsy, like he went 0-0 and swapped to SNS BB and started blast shotting Kenneth in that same war. Like there's a very big disparity, and like some of those like fundamentals played in. Like Kenneth is running Relentless, and people were breaking a stand bar before the crash was happening so that Kenneth couldn't dodge mid crash, and that's like a very NA thing with Relentless tank is to dodge with the Relentless shield mid crash. Like there's a lot of fundamentals that just change. That VOD was funny. The shirt off part or the relentless part? No, I'm joking. I'm giving kind of shit, but no, he's good. He's playing the hardest role in the game by far, I think. Well, not by far, but like relentless tank is like it is so much harder than tank. Like it's like very hard to like understate that. It plays fundamentally like so differently. Like I don't know a single relentless like tank player that like or like tank player that swapped to relentless and didn't have a war where they died like 7 or 8 times. Like it's just like everyone has that experience. It's rough. Uh, let's see what else is there to talk about. So we talked about how Team Beast is basically going for the boomers. We talked about how KOS was very main ball focused. Cyblau was kind of the opposite, where they're very kill squad focused or like wide fight focused. So like their first 4 picks, this is saying, hey, we're gonna win wide fight, and then they get their kill squad healer like later on. I thought it was really interesting that they didn't prio a kill squad healer like earlier on, and they proud the damage players over the kill squad players, and I generally agree with their analysis because healer I think is fundamentally a lot easier to play now than what it used to be because you have so many get out of jail free cards. So like the damage players matter more because the healers have an easier job. With Dark Ascent, it's playable. I saw Ings with Dark Ascent. I mean, yeah, the the idea with that is like it's for a really niche purpose. It is in the case where people are breaking your stam before crashes, which is what EU does. You could use Dark Ascent as an iframe while you're in the air to dodge Deado. Usually Stone Form is just better. Like 99% of the time Stone Form's better. Like you could walk through ice showers, you get a lot more resistance to just damage in general. Like the stun immunity is insane, so that when you're actually shielding, it's great. But I think the aspect of grip pots being introduced with it makes it a little bit less troll, but I still view it as troll. But I still like, I think I generally prefer Flail to have Relentless on it than Tank as someone that's played both. Just because Flail is like a lot easier to play, and there's not like a big difference if you have to up your con. Like we were talking about it like before stream. But like if you have 200 focus, like you have 3 seconds of immunity on Vortex. If you have 350, it's 5 seconds. And if you have like 250, it's 3 seconds. Or sorry, 4 seconds. So, and like a lot of flails are focused on like getting to 300 to get a perk that gets overwritten by other healers or healing anyone at any time in any place. So it's like I don't really understand like the whole aspect of like flails like running like excess focus when it's not completely needed. I think it's just kind of patty. But then like B, like it's not that hard to live with flail and force people off a point. Like if people focus you on flail relentless, you just like swap to IG and then they're wasting their time because they're gonna live because you have an IG. So I don't think it gets overwritten and stronger from healers the same buff. I'm sorry, that's what I mean. Like if I proc that buff on somebody, that cooldown tracks with the person that it procced with from testing I did. So it's like if I have it and then my other healer has it, like with 300 focus, it doesn't matter, right? Because each person's just giving them the fortify. So it's like if it doesn't matter, then like why would you focus it on a flail? I tested outside of yours, Crush. I tested it with, I think it was with Roland. But then, like, there's Healing Breeze, which it could make more sense to run that with a flail just to have 100% uptime. But yeah, it will take more with a healer as well. But then I'd argue also Healing Breeze lets you get stuff faster, which then getting, like, that's the main purpose of Healing Breeze, is just to get ult charge faster. It's not really to heal. Because the heal is, like, what, 200 to, like, 300 a tick? Like, it's not super significant. I'm starting to like Breeze. Yeah, yeah. So, like, in terms of top 15 picks, that was the general philosophy. We already kind of went through that. Later on in the draft, you start seeing, like, kind of unique positions come off the board. So, like, the most interesting part of the entire draft to me, but this is biased as a tank player, was that Team B selects Kenneth, and then they select Custom back-to-back. I would have thought you would select Kenneth and you'd select Dale, because Dale doesn't want to play Relentless on Flail, and Kenneth plays Relentless on Tank. So, like, naturally, they pair up. I've been told that was done strategically, because they want less yapping on the point, if you will. And both those players like to yap a lot, so they wanted to separate them. But then it like instantly created a very weird situation. So Team Beast has Moors as IGL. Moors is the only IGL that prefers to run Relentless as a flail player. So now you're drafting the Relentless tank with the Relentless IGL. So the major value from drafting Kenneth, in my opinion, was wasted. And it would have made way more sense to me to try to focus getting Dale in that spot so he can run the carry flail build with Moors on the Relentless flail build, and then just pick a tank later on, and it doesn't really matter what tank you pick because everyone's played that tank style. It's like relatively easier to play. Play without Relentless build feels kind of troll now, not gonna lie. If you're IGL, it makes some level of sense. I mean, the main problem with Moors running it is like there was already an incentive to just crash on top of an IGL's head and just kill them before because they're the IGL. It makes it really hard for them to shot call. And now there's like double the incentive because he's the Relentless player. So like it's like the main knock on running it. But from the most part, Moors doesn't really feed on it, and he actually lives. So like I actually don't hate him running it on IGL, and I think it's actually an asset. Like if your IGL can run it, then you could run, a carry flail build, and you could have a flail that's focusing top point, focused on like basically dueling people, tripping them, putting them on the ground, and killing them. So that's something that like Dale's very good at. And so I think it would have made more sense for Team Beast to draft Dale here if they're gonna not try to if they're gonna try to decouple Dale and Kenneth, and then let Kenneth go to a different role. But instead they proud Kenneth first, which I thought was kind of interesting. I think the guy picked below Dalevar is a great pick personally. High Rowan? High Rowan's really good. Oh, you're talking about yourself. You're talking below like this. I thought you meant like this. There's a difference here. All right, that's it, buddy. It's not comedy hour. I'm trolling. I'm a little surprised Cammy went that early too, to be honest. But like, not completely surprised, but just a little bit, because like Cammy's usually Group 1 healer, and I'd argue Group 1 healer is like a very, very easy role to play. And it's like if you're gonna start a healer in any role, I'd argue you start them on Group 1 healer, unless your Group 1 healer is healing the Relentless tank, in which case you need a really good healer to do it. But like, you draft Cammy, you draft Dale, so like I guess you're forced into a Relentless tank. But then like you draft like I think they drafted like Essie like later on as the Relentless tank that's never played like Relentless, or she has played Relentless, but it's like she hasn't played like Relentless tank a lot. She's played it like once or twice and doesn't prefer doing it. So it's like the whole like point group, like synergy wise, like this was like the most abysmal like draft I've ever seen. Like it should have been either Dale and Kenneth, or it should have been like Dale and me where I'm running Relentless tank, I guess, which would have been fine, or like Kenneth and me. So no, Kenneth and me wouldn't make sense, but Kenneth and Dale or me would make some sense. Instead of like what ended up happening is like Kenneth's drafted to a team where they don't want him to run Relentless, even though he's been focusing on running Relentless on tank. Dale was drafted to a team that wanted him to run Relentless on flail when he ultimately does not want to play Relentless on flail. And then like Hyron and I were just drafted together, and like we're both cool with either role. But then I was traded with Dale because Dale didn't want to play that and Essie didn't want to play that. And then that created a whole bunch of drama in day 2 because then what's his name? Pebble was picked like early on in day 2 New World League draft to potentially play Relentless Flail for this company because they didn't have someone else that could play Relentless Flail. And then the draft happened, and like everything basically just got completely fucked, and that's why drafts just started happening with tank players and flails. It's like no one really thought about like, hey, who's running Relentless and who is not. And by the way, like all this is happening while Relentless is bugged, and like this effect like doesn't work if someone's running Vital Synergy on their armor. Like when they go below 50% stam, the effect is literally removed. So like the entire aspect of like valuing the Relentless flail is for valuing it after season 9 when that bug is fixed. But it's just like a bunch of like tank drama that like didn't really need to happen for any reason. It was kind of weird. When is this New World League starting? First war? Tomorrow. That's why I'm talking about this today. hopefully fixed in 2 weeks. Yeah. So like there's a whole topic or conversation of like, do you change how you're gonna play because the relentless isn't working completely, or do you play the relentless because it works in the neutral, or like how do you view that? Like, I don't know. Like the reason why you would not run it on relentless at this point is so you could be more aggro with the flail out, and you can run a kite shield, and with the kite shield with like either this or the one that has slash ward thrust or slash shield ward thrust shield ward on there. You can just like basically just duel anyone in the game, and you can use kite shield stagger to like get value, and like stop people from like crashing. Like if bruisers are looking to crash in a certain spot, like say like bruisers looking to wrap this way and look for a crash like here. If I'm the flail player, I can look to smite like here, and then that staggers everyone and makes their whole crash slower. So like that's the value of running a kite shield. It also gives you CDR over defensiveness, which I think is valuable. Like, if you could pick one, tower or kite, you're generally going to prefer kite. But there's also, like, a good enough argument for tower to where it's not, like, one-sided. Kite seems like a strong choice for IGL, to be honest. IGLs have never run kite shield, and the reason why is usually your IGL is not very good at the game. Like, you take Apples, for example. Like, the guy has, like, 10 to 13 deaths per war. Like, why would I ever put Apples on something that's squishier when I should, like, realistically, Apples should always be on 500 con, 100 focus, tower, shield, maximum defensiveness, everything that you could throw out in the game to try to help him live more, like, build, because he's probably going to die a lot more otherwise. Like, that's why IGLs are, I mean, not valued with Kite Shield, though. And, like, the other aspect, too, is, like, say I run an IGL with a Kite Shield that doesn't really know what Kite Shield does, and say they stagger people out of a crash. Like, that's really, really bad. Like, if you give people, like, free dodge rolls out of crashes. Like, that's terrible. Like, that's literally how you grief and throw a war. And there's a difference between, like, a flail with a trip whose range is, like, literally this big. Like, from here to the barrel, I could hit somebody. And, like, trying to use that on a tank player to, like, a giant stagger effect that literally hits this entire area and would stagger everybody. So that's why that's not right valued. But that's the tank portion of this aside. So that's all I have from a tank perspective. This why we traded you for the kite shield. I mean, you could run it either way, but that's the stirring the part. Dark Ascent is best. It's like a full heal when you need it. Yeah. I mean, it's very fun. But I haven't run it in a competitive war, but like there's so many things about it that seem like kind of troll. If you stay in crashes a lot, I could see where it could get a lot of value though. IGVGs, honestly, a lot more of them taken earlier than I would have expected. Like, I think most people right now slot somewhere between 2 and 4 IGVGs in an entire army, and then Void Blades are viewed a little bit differently. But throughout the, like, in this process, like, how many IGVGs were taken? What, 6 IGVGs for Team Beast? Like, this tiny number up here. And then 5 for the others, and then you have to keep in mind that, like, Stern's, like, already running IGVG, so, like, they basically have 6 too. Like, I still think more people should run, like, more IGVGs, and there's a lot of issues caused by not enough ice showers being on point. I mean, there should be zero normal IGVGs and all blades if you're on meta. I mean, yeah, but like the issue with running so many blades is like half the blade players just tunnel on the fact that they're playing blade and forget that they're playing a hybrid role and that they need to shower crashes and need to be body blocking people trying to escape. And that's like 80% of why IGVG's even slotted in the first place, and the other 20% is for Oblivion. And like everything else is just a bonus. Like being able to duel people and force people back, like that's great, but like I don't know. Like I feel like people overvalue that a bit. But Blade is the only fun part, lol. I mean, yeah, but like, let's be real. Ice Shower hasn't been nerfed in 4 years and won't likely be nerfed forever. And it's a broken ability, and spamming that is generally a good way to win wars. Like, yeah, you could use like Flail Cleanse to like kind of get through it, but then you also have IGVGs that are like stripping the Flail Cleanse or should be looking to strip that immediately, which they're not doing. And like that's another fundamental that's missing right now. Like the skill discrepancy between like IGVGs that know what they're doing and like average IGVGs is like very, very large. So like I could see why a lot of IGVGs like went early on, even if Taka's like apparently not playing. I don't know if Taka's actually playing or not, but Taka said that they weren't going to play and somehow ended up in the draft and somehow got drafted. But that aside, like that there's a very big skill discrepancy from people that are just clicking the buttons and people that like kind of know what they're doing. So I mean, you could slot the bottom quads in standard, but like I would take a good blade over normal IGVG any day of the week. I mean, that's fair, but like I feel like nullifying like orb is like such an underrated ability that I feel like it's hard to justify to some extent. Like being able to strip active buffs by 75% and not commit your body to a certain spot in a crash is just insane. And because that's the meta right now, like a lot of people have gone back to like fort stacking stuff and like doing buff stacking builds. And that's why you see like tanks like consistently running what do you call it? Well, I have the wrong tree on because this is I had to go do 3v3s for stuff, but like people were running resolve running resolve a lot more now. And like this was viewed as like a really troll ability back in the day. Because anytime someone would pop resolve, you'd have like 10 IGVGs on the point, and somebody would just be tracking the tank's resolve and would just strip it immediately. Like I was doing that versus Lemgod when Supple versus like dropouts first started. And then like there's also other stuff with like stripping shield auras and things that people didn't really think about at the time, but I don't know. But those metas were just so weird. Like I think when IGVG first started getting played, people were slotting like max con, like only hitting like 250 going the rest in the con IGVGs in light for some reason, because the light roll was better than the medium roll and the heavy roll. So you basically had a super tanky light player rolling around point, and it was just like freaking weird. Blade on heavy, huh? No, you do. Wait, you do blade on heavy now? You don't do blade on medium? You were an Oblivion blade scream on heavy, and it's better than. Oh, you blade on heavy if you play point. Oh, I mean that makes sense. Yeah, like if you're utility, you'd go blade on heavy. But if you're damage wise, you'd probably want elemental conductors and medium. IGVG should understand they're not main characters. I mean, blade it's functionally kind of played like a main character. Like I don't know. Like I would argue that IGVG right now is sort of having an identity crisis, where it's like the old IGVG style was, hey, I have my 2 bruisers. They're looking to crash on Lemeth here. I'm gonna go try to shower behind Lemeth and scream this guy so he's in place and they blow him up. Like that was like the old IGVG style, and like that entire thing has like transferred into this pressure-based style, which still has value, but then like I feel like you can't completely ignore the fundamentals. I don't even play Azoth conductors in medium, it's troll. Do you have to go defensive, or are you like Void Darkblade, or are you Tumbler? Like is there another option? Ginge? You're Invig stacking? What the hell? Why do you need to Invig stack though? You have like 100% disease immunity already. Like without Ginge basically. Like if I run 6 of these with Invig, or if I run 4 of these with Invig, this gets up to 64% plus 25% from Desert Sunrise is like at 89% or something like that. Because I chase group 8 healer and a Narnia and win the fight for them and kill healers the entire war. I mean, I would agree that IGVG's utility is more important than like the utility part of IGVG matters a lot more than the damage, but I feel like that's a cook. Though it does give you more slots. I mean, the dot part, in my opinion, doesn't really matter, but if you get it low enough and fire staffs aren't stacking like burning, or like, I mean, they're running 250 int, so it really doesn't matter. Like, yeah, it would just be for Invig. I don't know. I can't be killed? I mean, if you can't be killed and you're getting killed, you're getting value, right? That's the fundamental. Get kills, don't die. I mean, I'm an Invig believer too, so I appreciate Invig being used more. Because anytime there's a neutral phase and I'm on Invig, I just don't have to pop a cleanse pot. And then I could use Cleanse Pot deliberately when I actually need it instead of having to spam it off cooldown. I mean, the other part about Ginge, like, I'm just talking about disease right now, but, like, the rend immunity, like, the weaken immunity, like, there's an argument that if you run Invig, you end up dealing more damage because you don't have to pop Cleanse Pot to get rid of weaken. The pressure I get by not having to give up space to play life is more valuable than the 10% damage. I could buy that. That's even playable on Bruiser. I saw a Bruiser VOD. I mean, like, I don't know how it is in EU, but, like, in NA right now, there's usually about a crash every 25 to 30 seconds. And when you have crashes faster than every 30 seconds, a lot of the fundamentals break down. So, like, Bruiser's popping Cleanse before a crash. That's no longer constant, and your Bruisers are only popping Cleanse before a Deado crash, right? And there's a difference between a pressure crash and a Deado crash. And if you're... it just gets really weird, because, like, in spots where people don't have Cleanse Pot now Weaken's a lot better. So then stuff like Power Stone becomes very important. Stuff like using Smite on giant clumps instead of using it to just increase somebody's cooldowns becomes really important. Like, a lot of the fundamentals just change when you're crashing that fast. I would rather not be plagued, weakened, or rended than have 25% more armor. I just play 300 con anyways. All you need to do is play some flow and OPR and you'll be a believer in Invig. I mean, the argument for Dark Plate is for fort stacking stuff for the most part. So it depends who you're fighting. But yeah, the 20% is something that's really noteworthy. I think I actually got asked something similar to that the other day. Like, somebody was asking me, like, what if I run, like, a medium piece instead of a heavy piece in heavy? Like, how big of a hit is that? And I think they're cooking about... I mean, when they asked me that, like, there's either two things that I know they're doing. That they're running Ginge, or they're, like... I mean, is LE Conductors medium bound? I think LE Conductors is medium bound. I mean, you could run the haste boots, I guess, but, like, if you're in heavy, why would you never prio, like, the haste boots from the worm? Like, those are insane. So it's like, I don't know. I was just so confused by that question. That doesn't mean you have to stack more fortify. Oh, with running... Are we talking, like, with fort stacking with Void Darkplate stuff? There's other aspects that people don't really think about with Void Darkplate, like some major downsides. Like, do I have it on this character? Yeah, I have it. So, like, if you play SNS, like, a lot of SNS players preach about Void Darkplate, this sturdy shield passive effectively works like Void Darkplate. Like, this is actual base armor, it's not a fortify. So then, like, the value... I mean, this comes back to a conversation I had earlier, but, like, as I start stacking more of these effects, right? So say I have 15% from here, say I have 5% from 50 con, and say I have, like, is it 10 or 20% from 200 con? 10%. But, like, say I have all these, right? And then I'm, like, adding Void Darkplate to that. This value of 20%, this isn't actually 20%. It's, like, over all these other things. So, effectively, this 20% is about, like, a 14% increase in armor or something like that. Like, 13, 14. It's basically TLDR, Void Darkplate isn't as good as it seems for certain rules. If I use Void Darkplate in heavy when I'm playing a structured kill squad fights, but I'm playing top quad VG, it's like a medium Ginge, but I play differently, almost like a quad DPS. I mean, that's interesting to me. I do like when you're going that style, it feels more like what an IGVG should do almost. Like, I think melee weapons in general, if you're just trying to play for damage, you're at a very significant disadvantage because you're just going to encounter a lot of passive weaken. And by running Invig, like, if we don't even talk about the other benefits that you get, like, reducing the potency of weaken increases your damage by a significant amount, right? Like, if you have 50% weaken on you, assuming, like, or say you're weaken capped and then power doesn't matter, you're doing half damage. Like weaken is a very significant debuff, and being able to get that off with like fundamentals, like using cleanse to do stuff, like that's great. But when you can just be immune to it in the neutral and actually use cleanse how you like want to use cleanse, and like the whole game opens up. I make healers' lives impossible. It takes space that they need to heal group 8 top quads. I mean, yeah, and he probably can be healed too, right? And you don't have disease on you, don't have rend on you, so you can just exist in that space. So it makes sense. It's significant, but if your flails and IGVGs are positioning properly, a lot of passive and power is given to you also. I mean, yeah, I don't think IGVGs are positioning properly, I'm not going to lie, but yeah. But you still get the bonus rend to disease, especially disease. I mean, like, it's the most polarizing perk in the game. Like, Invig is either viewed, like, by people that play with Invig, it's just like, oh my god, this is, like, the best perk in the game. I can play the game fundamentally, like, completely differently. And then you have other people who are just like, why would you ever run Invig, bro? Just, like, use Cleanse Pot. Like, that thing's useless. It's almost like with Freedom. Like, where Freedom's that way as well. Except for most people that run Freedom now, it's just like, you're using Stone Form, you're using Grip Pot, so now the value of Freedom's, like... I mean, this... It's mostly Stone Form that counts towards Freedom. Like, Grip Pot's, like, more stagger immunity. It's not... It's, like, pull immunity. It's not root immunity. So, like, it matters, but, like, it only matters to a certain point. Like, I don't know. Most IGV just a stat pad, regardless of what abilities they use. I mean, yeah, there's a difference, right? Like, I mean, there's a difference between looking at stats and looking at VODs. Like, if I... Like, most people... I kind of want to use tanks as an example because I play tank too much. But, like... Tanks and flails, when they get to the end of the war, all they're going to look at are deaths and assists. And they're going to move on. Like, a lot of people won't watch the VODs. They'll just look at deaths and assists. But it's like, it's a lot more than that. Like, assists don't track how many times you generated a kill by, like, body blocking people escaping from crashes. Assists don't track how many people you forced off the point by stepping top a point. And by forcing those people off the point, how much tick percent you generated for your team. It's like, there's a lot of fundamentals that just aren't tracked by assists, and that just, like, in, like, stats in general, and I think there's, like, if people are lazy, they'll just look at stats, and I think stats should be, like, more of a reassurance thing, like an indicator, where it's like, hey, you're a tank player, you just had 7 deaths this war, let's look at your VOD. It's not like, hey, you're a tank player, you had 2 deaths this war, hey, you're a tank, you had 3 deaths this war, we're gonna value you differently. It's like, no, you don't. Like, it's an indicator, but, like, you really need to look at VODs to understand problems. And, like, that comes back to, like, IGVG's just stat pad regardless of what abilities they use. I'm not saying that because Kenneth died a lot on Relentless. Everyone dies a lot on Relentless, but that's, like, an indicator. Like I died a lot. I think the first time I played Relentless with Prim, I think I had 5 deaths. Like, that's still a lot of deaths. I think I played Relentless in a war, like... yesterday or something like that, and I was trying it with Greatsword for a cook that other tanks were dying, and I didn't understand that you needed to pop Grip Pot before you used any ability, otherwise you'd get canceled out the ability now, which is fucking annoying. And, like, I had a bunch of deaths because of that. Like, I think I had 3 deaths because of that, and, like, 2 of the other deaths, like, one was reset related, and one was a healer being positioned in a spot that I didn't really expect. Like, I think there were an Oppo somehow. But I don't know. It was, like, weird things. It always comes back to Kenneth. It's not my fault. Fortune put it in the chat. We should watch Kenneth's EU VOD. I watched Kenneth's EU VOD, and I am not going to watch that one on stream. That one's not... No. Like, it's... The only reason to watch it on stream was the fact that he showed up to a T1 EU war with really bad gear and expected to do well. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, like... It's humbling. But, like, it's, like, one of those things where it's, like, you don't... No. It's like if someone asks you to war, you show up with appropriate gear to war, and like and on top of that, he didn't switch off of it, and on top of that, he didn't play it fundamentally that well. So I don't know. You guys are baiting me. I want to go back to New World League stuff. All right. This tail end of the draft was mostly wrapping stuff up. One last tank thing, SE being drafted over Vemu early on, I think was kind of interesting. Like, Vemu hasn't played the game in a while, and he's been playing on I think, West mostly, and, like, 1 or 2 other servers as a flail, kind of casually. So, like, I get why he wasn't drafted first, but, like, him not being drafted for tank I thought was kind of noteworthy. And not picking up a, like, usually when you think of like top 3, 4 tanks in the game, like in NA, you'd probably be thinking like Kenneth, Vimu, Roland's probably in that conversation now. Lengod's probably in that conversation. Or Lengod definitely is in that conversation. Lengod's arguably the GOAT because he introduced the war or the role to the war scene in general. And then there's one, two, and like one or two others that have played like T1, T2 at like a pretty high level consistently. Uh, like oh shoot, I'm forgetting their names. Uh, but there's a list of like 7 or 8 tanks I think of before I think of Essie. But Essie has like played the game like consistently recently and done very well in wars recently, and has improved a lot. So I think this is kind of interesting and kind of justified. But it's more of a, hey, you've been really good recently. We're not going to take a risk on somebody that hasn't played the game in a long time. We want you to work for us, and that was kind of cool. IGVG's kind of drafted in the later half. Some big names like going like really late were kind of surprising. Adorai's goated OPR healer, but like Banana Tugger Carl going this late is like kind of surprising. Especially because I think Carl was drafted really, really early on in one of the last New World Leagues. The Firestaff situation is also shocking to me because it's like you have Burt, you have Aang, you have Rexy, like these names like check a lot of boxes, but then like I think Branchies went to G League somehow. Like Schmeck goes before Branchies. Like I think Andev was drafted like highly a time or two ago. Andev goes to G League. Like there are some like big names that did not go early on. Kirby's a pretty popular streamer. Like that, and it just like wasn't a really proud class. And I think most of that's just because Firestaff's like not like there's not a big skill ceiling compared to the floor for Firestaff now, in my opinion. But this is totally coming as a person that has not watched a lot of Firestaff VODs, and I probably could be completely humbled. But like the best Firestaffs I see are dropping like 10 kills a war, and they're basically playing kill confirmed. Like they're waiting for someone to get low, and then they're finishing them off because other people can't consistently finish them off. Like you don't really see Firestaffs like pad as much anymore, which is kind of nice. But like I don't know, it's a class where you aim lock pillar fire and you click the button like when it's a good time to use it, and you literally can't miss the abilities. So like I have a hard time valuing it a ton because they just stat pad. I mean, like ever since aim lock has been introduced, I feel like Firestaff's like skill ceiling is so much lower because like pillar fire is a guaranteed hit. Like it's so gross. Uh And it's like right along there with BB, where it's like BB can't miss a shot, Firestaff can't miss a pillar of fire. It's like, oh man. Which is like probably why you see like Dex players still be taken like really, really highly, even though the value, I'd say, of a bow in general is greatly diminished compared to what it once was because you can't spam heavy attacks. But I don't know, Firestaff is just such a whack, like such a whack situation. The other story that you don't really see from the draft perspective is a lot of spear hatchets were drafted. Like if we look at disruptors, we've kind of talked about everything else, like at least briefly. I don't think we talked about the musket thing or AoE heals, but from a disruptor perspective, spear hatchets were valued very, very highly. So like here, for example, like really good, well, I don't know if I'd say really good spear hatchet, but he's a good consistent spear hatchet. Like there's been times where I've caught him out where it's like it's very questionable why he was positioned there in the first place, but at the end of the day he gets kills and doesn't die a ton. So but like spear hatchet's been like one of the conversations. It's been a build that's gone from like a one of niche slot to barely being viable to a build that people are slotting like somewhere between 3 and 5 of recently. It's a build that's very easily counterable by IGVG. So I'm like kind of surprised we haven't seen like Blades look to just mirror spear hatchets and just like basically ego duel them when they swap the hatchet, just strip the stuff, like I don't know, and kill them. Like it's not that hard. And you haven't seen like flails duel them as much recently, but I think that's mostly just because Dale hadn't played the game in a while, and a lot of people didn't play that style before and kind of playing flail as an aura bot, not as an actual role that did things. So that was a whole another topic of conversation that it's like that's something that didn't really exist that exists now. SNS Great Axe is the new thing, the new toy on the block compared to SNS Greatsword. I think like the people that drafted Greatsword players in G League, like Mighty Master and Toufer, I unironically think those players, like those teams, have such a big advantage because of the Season 9 patch and with that Greatsword being dropped. Like, it is scary. Like, I forget who it was, but there's somebody on EU that I probably go to comments of the video and said that they were playing like Greatsword on the PvP server, and they were hitting a heavy attack, and then it spawns the little projectile thing, right? So let me see if I could find the clip of how this Greatsword works real quick, because it's better to just explain how, like, to show how this works and why it potentially can be broken. Who did I DM this? I think I DM'd... No, I've talked too much to Dale, though. I'm never going to be able to find it with Dale. Maybe I'll find it with Dale. Oh, I did. Okay. I haven't talked to Dale that much recently. Cool. But Baggins has a clip of this just to show what this does, and then, like, apparently, if you hit the heavy attack and it spawns the projectile, this thing was hitting for, like, 12k. Like, one person, one attack hitting for 12k. And it goes through the entire point. Like, look at this. Like, bam. You just nuked an entire point. So you have 2 or 3 of these people, and they're smart and don't use the first heavy attack and do a light attack first and then do heavy. You can literally wipe an entire point with this weapon. And, like, all the Greatsword players were taking day 2. Like, they're taking for G League, for crying out loud. Like, imagine Toufer with, like, 5 con walking around with this thing, dropping a 12k nuke on point. Like, forget Fire Staff, forget padding with Fire Staff. Like, that's more damage than a Bruiser with Detto. Like, that's like 2 Bruisers with Detto. And it's going through this entire point area. Like, this is the scariest part about the entire draft that wasn't valued at all, in my opinion. Does the projectile pierce? It does pierce. That's why it's so scary. Like, what Fire Staff ability literally hits people, like, in a 10-meter range? Like, for crying out loud, this is so good. It has to be nerfed? It's AGS. They're understaffed. What do you mean it has to be nerfed? Like, when have they nerfed anything? They haven't nerfed Fire Staff in the last year. There's someone out here trying to make this comp happen and crying that it's not happening. It happened with the stupid wars that had that PvP build, though. People were just spamming this, and they were just nuking people by dropping the stupid waves everywhere. Fire Staff has been broken for the last 2.5 years. It's like, did he do the sideways ones here? This is the part... Oh, no, he doesn't show it there. One of these, he does the sideways one. I want to pause it when he does that, because that's the one that seems really scary to me. That is so wide, and it's going like 10-15 meters. Like, holy crap. Gonna start calling waves into crashes? That's gonna literally, this deletes everybody. Like, even, like, Baggage isn't running gear, these guys aren't running gear, it's hitting for 4k. This is probably gonna hit for 5 to 6k on the wave. Like, Fire Staffs are hitting for, like, maybe 3 to 4k. And it's hitting, like, much less of an area. Not gonna lie, it will force a change to the meta. I mean, I think it's good, too, because it will force the meta to change. The meta's been stagnant for too long. But, like, all these players... Like, when did Toufer even go? Like, when was Toufer drafted? Because I think Toufer was drafted, like I think Toufer has, like, the upside potential to literally be MVP of the New World League, and this guy was drafted day 2. Like, with this weapon coming out. Like, it is ridiculous how strong it could be on paper. Let's see. This is a day 2 one. This is the last part of the day 2 one. Like, where is Toufer even on here? I wish I could search. But he should be... Oh, there he is. Yeah, Toufer. This guy's drafted 102 overall. Like, in day 2. So that means, like, what? He's 250th overall? Like, for crying out loud, like, this guy could have a build that completely breaks the meta. So, shout out to 4 Horsemen Covenant. That would be Team Beast, aka the people that drafted all the boomers, because Toufer, even with the current patch, I think had the potential just to farm people that haven't played Wars that much, and has the upside of, like, completely taking over, like, the main roster slots, because that build could be that meta. That greatsword is fun as hell on the PvP seasonal. Mecrow, you still have the war on the screen, by the way? Oh, thank you. I forgot to turn that off. Oh, well. But I feel like that's a story that hasn't really been talked about, too. With movement rapier, shit was untouchable. I mean, the thing now is it's an artifact, right? Like, it's going to be an artifact, so you have less... Like, you can't run, like, a damage boosting offhand. You also assume it's going to have some sort of bonus perk because it's an artifact, so that would be a conversation. But Greatsword right now is probably in a conversation of 3 weakest weapons in the game. I think the only way it's even viable right now is if you're running Relentless Tank. And because you run Relentless Tank, you can't really run SNS Flail because you want to be able to get rid of the Relentless debuff. And in that niche circumstance, then Greatsword's like viable as a way to get out of clumps. Like instead of staying in with IG. And like that's the extent of where a Greatsword is viable. And like even then, like I don't think it's like meta for Relentless. I think it's like a techie option that's probably not that good. You could also just see IG secondary. I mean, IG secondary would be like the infinitely better thing on paper, right? Because you have Shower, and Shower is the most broken ability of the game. And then Tomb is very, very good as well. So, I don't know. So, like, kills, like, Disruptor-wise, everyone's prowling these, like, Spear Hatchet players. There's a very good chance that next meta, all these Spear Hatchet players are just replaced with Greatsword Hatchet players or Greatsword SNS, but I think Greatsword Hatchet would probably be better for kind of a nuker style build. And they're just trying to send waves towards the point. And like those were not prioed at all. So like you could see a very big disruptor meta shift. It would be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. If you play Spear Hatchet, you could probably play Greatsword in my opinion. I mean, I don't think it's going to require a lot of skill to play. Like it's just literally just like your entire... Do I have a Greatsword in this character? I mean, it's my fresh character, so I probably don't. I could log on to another character and just show like the Greatsword thing. But all you do is you just do light attack, double heavy. And you just send waves towards the point. That's the entire build. And then you spam mana pots. Do other flail players use the same build? No. I'm one of the only flails that Invig stacks. So like Big Mac was saying earlier that he's like one of the only IGVGs that Invig stacks, and he runs Ginge and prowls Ginge and finds that helps him live more and helps him like do more damage and stuff like that. Because he doesn't have weakens, he doesn't have rends, he doesn't have disease on him, doesn't have exhaust on him, like all those effects. Like not every flail values that. Like other flails value freedom, for example, but I would argue freedom inherently makes less sense with flail, especially because you have Vortex, and Vortex is a get out of jail free card, which ideally, yes, you should be saving for crashes, but it's not a terrible idea to spam the ability because the ability's broken. Like if you could save like 3 to 4 people from having to like spam out, like I'd argue that's like still value with it. You just have to know like when you need to save it. People that hate on Invig haven't played with Invig yet. Yeah, but with Greatsword, like the entire meta is just going to be this. It's just going to be light attack, heavy, heavy. And if you're an onslaught, it's just light attack, heavy, heavy, mana pot, light attack, heavy, heavy. Like you're just spamming waves at people. And if they want to use an iframe to dodge the wave, they're going to be freaking eating like so much damage into other stuff. Like, it's just going to be gross. So that wasn't valued much. We talked a little bit about SNS Great Axe. That's like a new build that basically has infinite chase. Like it's a build that you can never run away from it if you try. IG is like really the only way to slow it down. And that's a build that's been played a bit more of. I've seen a lot more melees in general being played with a good amount of less range players, but still enough range players to get kills confirmed. J-Chap is, I think, the only musket player that got drafted. Which, you know, musket has bloom now, but it still has the potential to finish kills. Musket's in one of those spots where it's like, if you have anyone breathe on musket, the meta way to play musket generally won't work very well. But if you could support the musket has the potential to pop off. It also can pierce through people, so it has like that similar mechanic with Greatsword where it can completely carry in certain spots where you're hitting collats. Invig is very good. Definitely think it's going to be seen more in New World League. I feel like people are just not going to spam it. I'm not going to lie. Like, we talked about this earlier, but like Invig's in a dichotomy of people think it's either completely useless or completely broken. Like some people think that Vigor should be incorporated into Invig so that's a good enough perk and just have Invig counter every debuff in the game, basically. But I don't know. Would recommend trying it if you haven't tried it. It might change your perspective, but I also understand that we're in a spot where everyone's going to wait for gear until Season 10, because Season 10 is likely going to have a gear score increase because there's a new raid coming out, and they talked about how you're going to need new gear anyway, likely to need to get those, what do you call it, gear bonuses. So if you have like your set bonuses for doing certain things. So like I don't think it really makes sense to like invest a lot into a new gear set right now. Makes more sense to try to be stacking it up for the next journey that New World has. Any other thing that's like really worth talking about here? Like if anyone in chat has any comments that they want to make, would probably be a good time. Woozy got selected this late? Oh my god. Beast, like, they picked some players up that should not have been picked that late. Like, why is Woozy picked this late? Jesus Christ, that guy is so good at games he plays. Woozy has been doing too well in wars recently. Oh no, he has the custom curse? I shouldn't call it the custom curse, but if you know, you know. That was like Woozy was Supple's like best Throne and Liberty bruiser, I would argue, or like Throne and Liberty like player for that aspect. That being said, Supple had like really bad bruisers in general, I think you could argue, and is one of the reasons why they got knocked out of the tourney really early. Another reason was that they weren't scripting and weren't exploiting, but like that's a whole nother conversation, but oh well. So I guess maybe that makes sense why he was taken so late. The healers just kind of rounded it up. That I was kind of this is kind of weird to me. I don't know if anyone else caught this, but like if the other team, so like take AoE healer for example, like this first 50 is your actual 50 for the first team. So it's like Beast selects Hutch as AoE. KOS selects Hailhunger as AoE. Why is like I'm gonna mispronounce the name and I can't see it because it's blurry. But like, why is this last AoE healer not picked like last overall? Like, there's literally no other competition for the AoE healer slot, so why wouldn't you just pick it last? Like, why are you wasting these 3 picks? Like, I guess if you don't know who you want to pick there, it doesn't make like matter. But like, same thing applies to Vimu, same thing applies to Essie. Like, in theory, all those should be like the very last pick because there's no competition for that slot. But then like also the opposite thing happens too, right? Where it's like Kenneth's picked, and now it's like, oh my god, the tanks and flails are going. We're in the 20 thing. We should probably pick the people that we like. And then it's like Dale is picked, High Rowan and me, and I are picked. So like we're all picked in the same pack, if you will. So it's like you see like a lot of those packs like throughout this draft process too, and that was kind of interesting to look at. It's like you have a bruiser pack here, for example. You have a disruptor pack here. This next part's kind of just taking the best slot available, I would say, is like the next chunk. But you see like the kind of the metas with just like who's picking who to prio like what spot in the game. You get down to the point where there's not a large difference in mechanics, so they probably just don't care. I mean, that makes sense like for roles at the tail end of the draft. Like yeah, I guess like if you don't care about the difference between like Tragic Magic or Boogie, then like it doesn't matter where you draft Essie. So like that'd be a valid thing. But then you also like, I don't know, you think about like other drafts, like you think about like I think about like football, and I'm a Chargers fan or whatever. Like we got Lad McConkey in the second round when he arguably could have been a first round pick. It was like people passed up on him, and he was arguably like one of the, if not the best, no, not the best, but probably a top 3 to 5 like rookie receiver, and he was drafted in the second round. Like there's like you could still find talent even if it's like this late. Like I would argue. You Chargers? Hey, you just have to be loyal to whatever thing you are, unless you're a Browns fan, in which case I don't know why every single player that you draft gets in some sort of criminal thing. But like, it's funny. They had like another pick that got like that is in court trouble for like sexually abusing somebody. Like it happened this year again. It's like, why does this always happen to the Browns? It's like every single year that happens to the Browns. I'm a Browns fan. Well, tell your draft picks to stop touching women. Like, I don't know. Like, surely it can't be that hard. You're getting paid millions of years. Like, just don't fuck it up. Like, I don't understand. The last 5 rounds are more the equivalent of 5, 6, 7 in New World League draft. I mean, yeah, at that point, like, it doesn't really matter that much. Like, you're just taking swings. So, who do you think won the draft? In my opinion, based off of how wars have played out recently and how stuff generally matters, I think Cybal won the draft. But KOS has the potential to still beat them because they took two polar opposite approaches, right? Like, Beast is just like, we're going to take the best player available. They might be old. We don't know if they'll be good or not, but we're going to take who we think is the best available. And it's like, Beast, like, I have no idea how to judge Beast. Like, Beast, I think, will either win the league or will get in last place, and I don't expect there to be an in-between. Cyblau, like, I think their floor is 2 and their top is 1. Because their kill squad's basically always going to win. And then, like, KOS's plan is just, we're going to roll you over, and we're going to crash so much that half the stuff doesn't matter, and we're going to beat you up in the trenches. Like, it's just like one of those things. Where it's like, our fundamentals are good, our kill squad doesn't necessarily have to win, they just have to do okay, and the rest of the army will take care of itself. And, like, I feel like KOS is, like, I talk about, like, KOS's kill squad being bad, but, like, Team Beast prior to the kill squad last, like, Team Beast, like, and Kier's not even, like, he's a kill squad player, but he's playing on point with Spear. Like, he's not, like, impacting the wide fight. So, like, I'd argue, like, Beast doesn't really value kill squad much at all. Well, that's kind of a lie. They have Rug. So it's a little bit different. And, like, Hoodie's a really good Void Blade. So maybe it's a little bit different. But, like on paper, Beast prowls the kill squad last, then KOS, and then Cyblau is like, we're drafting him early. For me, it's either the kill squad's gonna be really good or really bad, and those are a bunch of newer melees that don't know a bunch about, and either World is right or wrong about them. Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like they're just gonna lean on Rug trying to win Oppo. I mean, like, like, the other way to, like, value it is, like, not necessarily, like, which team has the best draft, but which team has players that scare you the most. And, like, Cyblau by far has the players that scare me the most. Like, Isaiah and Jordan, like, both scare me. I don't even play near their position. Like, Mystery and Brucey are, like, always consistently good. Like, Smirks is always consistently good. Aang is always consistently good. Like, Rexy's always consistently good. Who else is on there? Roland, I would argue, is, in my opinion, Roland's the best tank in the game right now. A, because he has the most reps. B, because he's very consistent. And C, because he can play both styles. But I guess he didn't at the time of this draft. It's like, and then they have J-Chap too. So, like, Cybal has the potential to just, like, kind of snowball everybody with the current meta. I could see there, like, if there's a meta shift and Greatsword becomes popular, like, you have to keep in mind, Team Beast drafted Toufer. Like, Greatsword's gonna be good. Toufer and Greatsword is, like, kind of a thing. So. Like, you don't really know who's gonna win. To be honest, I don't necessarily completely care who's gonna win. It's just, like, interesting to see, like, who values what the most. And the other way of viewing it is, like, you see what players are, like, when they're drafted next to each other, like, you see, like, the tiers almost, and, like, you see the same thing with, like, NFL drafts and stuff like that, or, like, Amari and Hampton and Genty go first round. There's not, like, it's a really deep running back class, but there's not, like, another running back taken for a good while in an NFL draft. Like, there's a very big gap between those players and, like, the next, like, tier of, like, running backs, for example, or, like, you see it with, like, tackles being drafted, like, immediately, and then they're, or, like, not tackles, you see tackles being drafted, like, very, very high because those are really hard positions to find because you need some dude that's, like, gigantic, has really big arms, and can hold his own off on his own island, versus, like, guards are not nearly as valuable. And then, like, you see, like, the New England guy that got drafted who had short arms for a tackle, so he's potentially a guard player, but he goes, like, very, very early, and it's, like, kind of interesting to see, like, those kind of trends. Toufer went 7-2 tonight in a practice war. That's it. That's how many kills he dropped. That's not many. I'm not gonna lie. That's not many. I kind of expected more. Like Toufer's the kind of guy where it's like I either expect Toufer to have like 15 deaths and have 0 kills, or to have 15 kills and 0 deaths. Like 2 and 7 is like a very non-Toufer staff line for Toufer. It's also interesting just to see how players are like valued over time. Like Urfat, for example, like he would have been a fringe player like 2 years ago, but now is drafted like relatively highly as a bruiser, and it's cool to see people like progress in that sort of way. Like people value them more. And then you see the opposite, where you see players that haven't like played the game in a while, and then they still get drafted like really really high, like Burt, Annie. Well, Annie's kind of played, but not really. Taka. I'm pointing out players I know. There's probably other players on this list. But I think that's mostly it from the New World League. I make fun of Apples a lot, but shout out for Apples for setting it up, because it's a pretty good reason to come back to the game for people, and it's like a very good source of content. And I think if Apples didn't let people say the N-word as much in his Discord and didn't say that word as much randomly, because I've seen him say that word a few times in random spots, aka he can get clipped and he can get banned, like they would probably be an AGS sponsored event again. It's just from a personality standpoint, it makes 0 sense. Like it's a risk. He's just a gamer. Yeah, but he took the time to set it up, right? There's a bunch of people behind the scenes that like, or the actual people running it, but he's still the face of it. Like it's like I'm not trying to set this up. Like I do not care enough, nor do I have time to like set this up. Like I'll take my wars where I get them. But like this is like a good opportunity to like kind of get people into the war scene, especially as like AGS is talking about merging servers again, and talking about how they're not going to add in custom wars immediately, which basically just means that players that are like fringe players or like kind of want to get into the war scene, like they're not going to have opportunities to get slotted most likely. Which it is what it is, but it's just like it's always rough. Meanwhile, I'm permabanned. Oh God, because you said some of those words. Uh, it's one of those PR things where it's like you get a job in 20 years, someone has a clip of you saying a really bad like word on stream and presents it to your boss, and you're fired immediately on the spot because there's a candidate that's like 90% of what you are and aren't a risk. Like there's just no point in taking a risk. A clip, good one. Yeah, okay, there's multiple. It's like it's kind of a theme, but